What's happening, guys? This is Mike at Let's Talk Comics, and today we are going to talk about creative teams. Now, the reason that I would like to talk about creative teams is I saw a video last night, and the topic of it was creative teams cannot save your favorite book. And the top comment on it was somebody had said to the effect of, great writers do not want to come on to a book because a book has done too much damage to a character. They've created too much baggage. They've created too much of a harmful legacy to the character. And I just wanted to say that I think that is a really insane thing to say. And it shows that the person who made that comment doesn't really fully understand how comic books work. And the reason I say that is comic book history is littered with the landscape of teams that came onto a book and basically wiped the deck clean in the first issue and proceeded to tell incredible stories, great stories, and put their own stamp on the character or the book. You know, when a creator is on a book for a while, they always have their own supporting characters. They always introduce the new job, the new location, or whatever. And the previous writers, characters, location, you know, frequently they just move on from them within the first issue, and it's never addressed again, and it's never a problem. So it doesn't become an issue of like, hey, it's been 4 issues. How come Peter Parker's not talking about his old co-workers anymore? Or, hey, what happened to Bruce Banner's last job he had? How come they're not reaching out to them anymore? It's all just ignored and moved on and forgotten about. And you might see it referenced in an editor's footnote or in a small piece of dialogue. But for the most part, it's over and just donezo. It's not real life where you have a history that continually follows you throughout your life. You know, if you look at a lot of the great comic books throughout history, writers, creators, they came on and they put their own stamp, their own footprint onto that book very early on and just moved on quietly and didn't have anything to do with any of the previous, you know, continuity or any of the previous characters or cast or what have you. You know, I think of Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, who, when he came on, he took one issue to establish the new continuity. You know, he took one issue to deal with the existing supporting cast and then moved on to the anatomy lesson issue, which changed the status quo for Swamp Thing from there on out forever. Green Arrow by Jeff Lemire and Andrea Sorrentino. They came on, and how did they deal with everything? They blew up the building and got rid of all of the previous cast just that easy. They blew up the building and started this new status quo right then and there. That's how they did it. You know, it wasn't any sort of long drawn out process. Doesn't need to be like that. Garth Ennis, when him and Steve Dillon came up to the Punisher, this is how they addressed the fact that the Punisher previously was dead and was a hitman working for Angels. He referenced it in one panel, said it didn't work for him, and that was it. We never heard nothing else about it again. So the idea that, you know, books have too much of backlog of history and creative, you know, characters from previous writers and everything, and that prevents other writers from coming on, just not true. You know, great creatives, they come on and they just basically briefly address the status quo, and then they move on with it and put their own stamp on it. You know, look at Immortal Hulk by Al Ewing. He came on, very briefly addressed all the other Hulk plot points and everything, and then started his own thing. Started telling his own cosmic, you know, cosmic horror type vibe on Incredible Hulk. That's been basically what the Hulk's been about, you know, for the past handful of years now. And there was no big loss or no big catch up, you know, no big you know, albatross hanging around the title. So I just really wanted to come on today and talk about that, you know, the fact that a creator, new creatives, they have this huge amount of baggage to deal with, and it's too cumbersome for a new team to come on, and that's why you see so many books feeling stale and stagnant. You know, it's if you read comic books for a long time, you'll understand very, very often previous events, cast, and characters are briefly mentioned. They're glazed over. They get a little bit of lip service, and then it's off to the new thing. So they acknowledge it, and then people come on and want to put their own stamp on it. So that is just a little quick talk about creative teams and the idea that previous continuity holds down the title, and it can be too confusing for people to pick up and too intimidating for new writers to come on. So that is today's topic for our walk and talk video. So until next time, I will see you guys later. Have a good day, and bye-bye.